Hey! I need to continue with this trial, so we're going to continue with it tonight. I know I didn't stream the past couple nights, and I didn't should have, but other stuff kind of came up, so... Anyway, continue with the trial here. It is... What was it about again? Oh, Sosuke. Japanese dude. We're defending him in court. That's right. Alright. Enough talk, let's just get to it. And continue. So, okay, so we had these two witnesses who we're dealing with. Let's see. Alright, we cross-examined them the last time. We'll clap the other. Did we determine where the police box was? I don't think we did. The girl went to the police box. Okay, I remember that part. We had some issue with the books, but I think we established there were 4 books, but the book the victim had was burned, and we determined that came from the apartment. Okay, I remember where we left off here. Almost at complete guilt here. Let's see. I have considered the defense's counsel request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I wonder if there's a limit on the examinations we can do. Like, we can't just keep doing summation examinations every time the jury turns against us. I assume there's got to be a limit to this at some point. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Again. Okay, so going into summation examination here. Let's dive right into it. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. Okay. He says left evidence. The 3 books, which we already determined. Okay, well, I think we established that the 3 books are the ones that the defendant had, according to the receipt. If there is some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Okay, so she's open to changing her mind if there's another explanation for how she was stabbed. Looking for an alternative explanation to stabbing. Alright. Yes, I am still taking notes as I'm going along here. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Was the window closed? That doesn't explain how the book got out there, though. Was the apartment window closed? Dear me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening even with a direct hit. What do you mean by a direct hit? Okay, book was not a threat. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Again, that is not an explanation. That is a non-explanation. Yeah, whatever. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. That's not really an explanation either. Fire gives him sneezes. That's not really relevant information. But we'll see how this plays out. Yes. Considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. Or not. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. That means, I'm afraid, that during this summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those two details are all you need to provide. Why am I helping you? I don't know. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel? Oh yes, my lord. Alright, Ryunosuke. Focus your mind now. Face slap. Yes. Double face slap. Clearly the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say, Mrs. Garadeb? We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident, and a 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garadeb and how she reacts. Even to the things other people say. Oh, I'll be watching. Okay. Begin. Alright, we'll just, well, let's just press everybody. It's always a good idea to do that. See what kind of reactions we get. But as we know now, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, the 3 belong to the defendant. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it. What's only leaves the Nipponese fellow? Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver is about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. That's kind of a dead end there. No explanation.
Hold it!
So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, it's just delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see? Modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite one or two minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Tee-hee. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there.
Hold it!
But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. You don't know that. How can you be sure? The prosecutor fellow there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? Even if our room is on fire. We'll never open our windows to let the smoke out. Why would we ever do that? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Not for any reason. Not for smoke inhalation. Certainly not for that. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh? Windows are made to be opened. Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to butt otherwise. Yes.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Well, he brought it upon himself. He's playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrett. Just keep slapping the other dude. Never you mind that. The point is, we were just having a jovial little dispute. Nothing more. Ow! Stop hitting me. And I won't have any more of these suggestions that it wasn't anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Alright, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? Ow! He doesn't seem to be turning a hair on Mrs. Garrett's relentless onslaughts. It sounds almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is. You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? Man's future is at stake here. Well, tell him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already. I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of martial bliss then. Situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Yeah, that's right, I blocked it out. Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Miss Susato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry? What's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? What was it, some kind of devil worship cake? Of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, of course. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but the candles went flying all over the room. And furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. It definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold? But how did you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco it was. My grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. Like, opening the window during a fire. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsumi, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the juror statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other, or force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, let's see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. Go, lawyer man. Alright, so I think we can probably pit number 6 against 3. Because 3 is just assuming the window was closed, and we can say, like, Juror 6 shows that the possibility that the window could have been open because there was a fire. And even in winter, if there's a fire in your room, you might want to open your window.
Objection!
These two juror statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that you say? Speak up, lads. Lads, speak up. Juror number 3. Do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh. Oh. Exactly. On the day in question at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Geradev household, and Mr. Geradev had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat! Oh. Do you have something to say?
Excuse me!
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? You're drinking an awful lot of tea. I hope you're not planning on using this as an excuse to go use the restroom, because, you know, that would be improper. So you might want to stop. Mrs. Geradev. Oh, dearie me. Where's the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. We got you. And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy, since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering, even though your house was on fire. Well, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It will be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadeb's formal statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true. The window could have been open when the woman was throwing books. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Alright, so I guess maybe we can repress her. The fourth book found that the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Geradev told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. Gulp. 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 On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband a copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes? He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. But why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it. Excuse me, do you have something to add?
Excuse me!
What is it, juror number 5? Is that your favorite book? You know something? I remembered what it was. The memory I blocked out. Ah. I was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it off floating back. Ow. Who you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garradeb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost a day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me it did, about 1 inch deep. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Could she have thrown a knife out the window? And hit that lady? Ooh. I see where we're going with this. I mean, yeah, maybe she did throw a knife out the open window and it hit the lady outside. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Put the knife again. It is a switchblade. And the tip is broken. I wonder where the tip is. Because maybe it's not in the victim. Maybe it's like still in Garradeb's apartment. Or maybe it's in the book. Was the book stabbed by the knife? No, it doesn't look like it. Like, maybe the book was thrown out the window in front of a lady, she bent over, picked it up, and then the knife came out the window and hit her in the back when she was bent over or something like that. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. Not like me, where I will just, you know, judo chop you over your head. No, I wasn't thinking that. Why would I think that? Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. They really should do a Suzato takedown instead, which is much more civilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me.
Hold it!
Your wife really threw a kitchen knife at you. That's right. She was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It started with that smile she threw me when we were recording. Since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. It's a relationship about throwing things. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. How strong is this woman? A safe, a door, a car, a horse, a building, a ship, an asteroid, an ocean, a mountain, a planet, the moon, a star, a galaxy, and I'm out of big things I can say. Now things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the flames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really. I'm so happy for you. If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first, that we're so obsessed with this one in this country, was thought up by some clever lads who've been tossed in the flames a few too many times by their wives. That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror statement just sounds like a really extreme antidote. But I think I might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. When your house fires or dire, you have to open windows to clear the smoke, and that's when the chill gets you, you see? I wonder if there's like anything else to these juror statements before I like got sidetracked with them. Right, totally understandable. I mean, you can't waste time deciding what to use next, can you? When you feel the way I did, you don't care what it is. You just want to smash into his face. You see where violence can lead, Miss Suzato? I'm disheartened to think you might believe me capable of such behavior. I mean, how could you? Anyway, I have a feeling I might have noticed someone reacting a little strangely to Mr. Garrett's remarks on now, you know, like juror number 5. Perhaps I missed something while I was preoccupied. Yes, I know. I was just checking. About how the victim was stabbed. Okay. I think that's what we have to do. Then his knife throwing thing.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief. You mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Please explain to me, because I'm so dumb, I can't put two and two together. Juror number 2. Do you think, perhaps, that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the fourth book, Malion's Pride, was found at the scene of the crime. Originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below. What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? Bean... What kind of insult is that? What do you mean, you little beanpole? Are you a pole of beans? Don't put beans on my pole. I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way up to the house. But what? What was it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman. I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrideb household to the scene of the crime was... the knife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garrideb. What? What now? I must apologize in advance for this, but I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah. Good Lord, Counsel. What on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged in the victim's back, man. Shh. Don't say that right now, Judge. I just want to see if she recognizes it. Don't say that. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garrideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Oh, even my missus hasn't got an aim like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my. Hey. Mrs. Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, My lord.
My lord, I wish to change my decision. I am a woman of my word, after all.
Thank you, madame. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions.
Mr. Foreman.
I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents. 1, 2, 3. Whoa!
We did it! Now can we get the other two jurors to go with the not guilty verdict, please, and we just wrap this up? Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of the jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty, against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of the court is divided. And this trial will continue. Continue. Now then, Lord Van Zieks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so pungent, it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zieks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garadep household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garadep's house to his scene is some, yes, 15 yards.
Let me see. 15 yards. That's around 14 meters.
14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I'd imagined. Now, to be fair, that woman is pretty strong. I imagine she can throw pretty far. And, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Can I just raise an objection here? Why are we assuming that the book landed in the lady's hands? I mean, obviously that's absurd. It fell in front of her, she picked it up. That's what likely happened. Why are we focusing on this absurd theory that it landed directly into her hands? Occam's razor, please, go with the simple explanation first, please, before you're getting to the more absurd things. Please. Nobody here has heard of that concept here, apparently.
Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? First off, we're not friends, because you're making silly arguments now. And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. I do like the sound of his voice. Miss Susato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? I'll judo chop him. Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? How dare you insult my choice of fiction? I will task you to battle. As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. Go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea of fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, Juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Garadet, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Well, technically, yes, she was kind of involved in the situation, which is why she should not have been a juror in the first place. Order! 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 Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
Ow! Where'd that come from? And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks. There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both the burning book and the jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume that they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? Witnesses? Yes, sir. Constable Roy Beat, reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for those until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rowley, my hero. You make me swoon. Very well. I will hereby reject the defense's request. Oh, that's too bad. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. Alright, cross-examination time again. The music has increased in pitch, so we're getting close to the end here. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadet. Believe me, a London Bobby's good for his word. I'm not falling asleep, I swear. Alright, so this case has nothing to do with which is not correct because we already showed that the book flew out their window and ended up in the woman's hand, so... You say, sir, the windows on top floor of the Garrett house are top hinged casements. Top hinged casements.
Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Not a strange report on that front, sir. Are you sure about that? So watch the scene. And that's it. Okay. 5 statements. We'll go for each of those. Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. My jolly, I've never heard of that before. What are those? Well, that detail was not in the police report, Constable. Oh, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. Sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you... you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry.
I have found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's room.
Alright, I'll try. Flashback!
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house.
Opens like that, okay. Excuse me.
But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see.
I'm glad you rectified your ignorance. The casement window's most prominent feature is its stay. The metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening. This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or a knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem then. Good. Your education in windows is complete. I pronounce you graduated in windowology. There is never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered. Something we've discounted already. That can't... Beef! Beef. Beef.
Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony.
Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how it crumbled before me.
Oh, Rowley, you're so strong.
How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again. The court awaits your cross-examination. Get up. Get up. My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation.
Hold it!
Why should we believe you? How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? He did. I can't say I remember, because it wasn't entered into evidence. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man is what the job's all about. And that is why I stand here today, beside my long-suffering wife, and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. Well, rubbing my tired eyes admittedly, sir.
Oh, Rowley, you're so manly.
Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rowley.
Swish. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett? Oh, I see, sir. Should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well... So, could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a frightening reason why Mr. and Mr. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies, and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you, I'll try. Oh, now it's entered into evidence. I must take a look at these guiding principles. Item 1. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beats. Item 2. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Now, what happens if they don't walk 20 miles? What if they get stuck in an incident where they have to deal with where they're not able to walk around for 20 miles? I mean, do they just... say there's an investigation happening, do they have to kind of walk in a circle for 20 miles, or what? I don't understand this rule. Metropolitan Police, and... oh, Principles of Policing and Metropolitan Police Regulations, okay. I don't want any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with the initial investigations and help detectives. And by which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. And they're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see? So they're restricted as to how much they open. Yeah, hold on a second.
Okay, so I know this is probably like an irrelevant question, but how does Rolly know so much about the specific windows of the Gyarados apartment? I mean, did he examine the Gyarados windows at some point? I was just wondering about that. And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map for you again. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Yes, how do you even know so much about the windows in their apartment? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados' house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Excuse me?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Sorry?
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one.
So... An idea is forming in my head right now. I don't know if it's right. We're gonna see where this goes.
Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat, wake up.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with the interviewing the occupants of the Gyarados household yesterday. Their house is on my beach, you see, sir.
So wait, hold up. Oh, where's the map? There it is. And so, Briar Road is like the boundary between the two police beats. So this side is part of Rolly's beat. So whose side is this? If that was the case, why was he investigating this side? If the murder happened over here. I think we might have a contradiction here. House is on my beat, sir. That really was cutting it close then.
Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Gyarados household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well?
Outside Mr. Gyarados' house? Yes, ma'am. That pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that.
Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of Bobby, after all. Don't get any ideas now.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think, my darling?
That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately.
Case files information has been updated in the court record.
And now it's my turn, I think.
So, here's the thing. What if this woman was on the other side of the street? Then potentially the book and the knife could have fallen on her. The book could have fell down, she picked up the book, then the knife came through and the knife fell down on top of her and hit her in the back. Now, that would mean that her actual, the actual location of the incident was across the street, not on the road. Was next to the apartment building, not across the street. And that would have put the attack in Rolly's zone of responsibility. And that's why he would have been assigned to investigate part of it. If it had happened across the street, it would not have been his responsibility to deal with. I don't know if we have enough information to make a contradiction yet. Probably stabbed in the back. The pavement of Briar Road on the east side, which is not Rolly's area. What if they moved the body because they didn't want to interfere with their wedding anniversary celebration? Because the east side of the road is not Rolly's beat. It's not Rolly's beat, so why would he have been... Let's press the rest of their statements and see what they say. But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can't it guide you to answer the question?
If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen the shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said. 3 times at least.
Of course, but what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, Are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir. That is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. Certainly seems like they're telling the truth here. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Hold it!
Yes, you said you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right?
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat.
Sir Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way.
Patricia, my darling. That's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly! Lovey-dovey, wovey.
Oh, please.
So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. Well, like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. Can't take my eye off the crime scene.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. I beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Ah, could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? The odds of that are extremely, extremely low. Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them.
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir.
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell.
What? I wasn't really. I mean, what's she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am.
I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you, even though I kinda do. Or I kinda doubt Rolly.
No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't.
Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. Give me more ammunition to use against you, please. Go right ahead.
How could she possibly
be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Is it? Is it?
Hold it!
Her sense of direction is off, so she could have been on the other side of the street and not realized it. Okay.
Mrs. B, nobody is questioning what you told us. I saw it, I did. That evening I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curving back, slinking away from the scene.
Huh.
And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky.
All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction.
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I've always ended up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He ever gets so cross. Do you have something to add, Mr. Bobby?
Excuse me!
Constable Beat. Is there a problem?
Wake up.
No, sir. No problem, sir.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all.
You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident?
Well, you see, I sent her off to find the police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, really? You're such a tease. But the reason I was gone so long was because of the bouquet, silly.
The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and pennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I've forgotten all about it until now. Had you, my darling?
Yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Really? Oh.
What was that all about? Constable B looked very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet.
Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned, I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to.
What is this bullshit? I should get another one of my chalices ready to be hurled away. Just know it.
What happened was, I brought my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't catching the light, so I didn't notice at first.
And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on.
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see? That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I tried to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. The body was moved. In any case, you need reminding Mrs. Beat. The victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right. Silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there, I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of the Briar Road to the opposite. Really? How could that have happened? Curious indeed. A walking bouquet. Who has ever heard of such a thing? Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me, with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. I don't think we have, well, I don't actually remember the actual scene, what the scene looked like, on both sides of the road. Like, we don't have a picture of the entire scene to look at. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry, solitary rose? Oh. Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary, with all bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose? Tell us, Lord Van Zieks, where did you come by the flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household. Ah, in front of the Garadeb's house. Although, it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. But it's a symbol of our love, and I'm going to examine it right now. There's nothing in particular right away is standing out on it. An English rose is such a beautiful flower. Ah, this is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? How dare you? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Only 3? I'm embarrassed to be around you. Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example. Like some other type of flowers. It's very stylish paper the flower's wrapped in, isn't it? I believe it's called newspaper. It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. How can you be so dumb? Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. Ah, I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Ah, Suzaru-san, you do love your cakes that are also potatoes. A potato is not a cake. English, okay. Alright, I don't think there's anything
relevant to glean from this? I can't see anything. Okay, this is a flower wrapped in newspaper. Shock seeing sad distant pause make me to drop the rose where she stood. And it was found in front of the Garadeb apartment building.
I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief. Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget Mrs. Beat. Okay, so we might have enough to present something at this point here. Now I just need to see like what statement I need to present stuff on. Let's see here. The question is just what statement do I want to present evidence on? Alright, I think I'll probably just save. So I'm probably gonna get a couple of these wrong, I think. Alright, so there's a couple of things I can use here. I can use the rose. I can use the warrant card. Crime discovered on his beat. Policeman must assist with the initial investigations and help detective. So we did help with the investigation, which means it happened on his beat. It happened on his side of the street. So at some point, the body got moved to the other side of the street. And that's what happened. Now I just gotta figure out what to present here. Maybe I should press them all again. Just to see if anything new pops up here.
Hold it!
Because they're making like really vague on which statement I should try to present evidence on.
Hold it!
Can we help with the investigation? You helped. In what way? Various members of the public were questioned in order to gain information about the case. That's right, sir. The sad truth is, we're all overworked. Even though it wasn't under the jurisdiction of my own beat, I obviously wanted to help. So now he's saying it wasn't under his jurisdiction. I wonder if, like, maybe he fell asleep and then somebody else moved the body. I see. Well, thank you.
Oh, is it my turn now?
Yes.
Hold it! Hold it! Hold it!
I guess the bouquet evidence might contradict her testimony here.
Hold it!
Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems all good or regular to me. Spring copper line from here, so it means I'm fine display. Okay. Okay, yeah, we did talk about this already. No, it's not a different copy. Commissioner, how do we make of all this? Yes, the whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I'm even starting to get a picture of what really happened there now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mr. Garrett was hiding something from us. But it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. Yes, if we can determine where to present here. Alright, the only thing I can think of right now is to present the bouquet here. And maybe, because that might contradict what she's saying here.
Objection!
No! I'm sorry, Counsel, I don't see the fucking connection. You can't test to know what I blah 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 blah.
Objection!
Oh, okay. On him. Alright. You claim Constable Beat. There was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
What? What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager.
Objection!
Object to that.
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact?
No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. It's a very important thing. But the bouquet belongs to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. Wrong way round. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garadev's book. Mr. Garadev's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to a testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here, at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. Yes.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. We're not about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking. That's what it is.
Oh good, Mrs. Garadeb's come around again. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garadeb. But deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, obstruction of justice. Let me spell it out for you.
Tampering, Mr. Naruhodo.
But the person responsible for his tampering cannot admit to it. For a very subtle, but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. I should probably save again. Here. And at this point, look at the core brother here. At this point, I think it could either be Joan Garadeb, well, probably not John Garadeb because he can't really walk. Maybe Joan Garadeb, or it was Rolly Beat. It had to be one of those two. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Alright. Let's think about this scientifically.
We know Rolly was present. Now, could he have moved the body? Well, okay, logically. He decided to help out with the investigation anyway, despite the body not being on his side of the road anymore, so him trying to move the body to avoid obligations isn't really logical. It doesn't really make any sense, because he still decided to help out anyway. So that would leave Mrs. Garadeb to want to basically try and push suspicion away from, you know, her actions and keep the investigation from her side of the street. So I think I'm gonna go with Joanne Garadeb here. Now, just continue the logic. I don't think John Garadeb is involved because he has a knee injury, so I can't imagine him trying to pick up the body and move it across the street. And besides, we already know that Mrs. Garadeb is a pretty strong woman. She can probably pick the body up and move him across the street without any trouble. And Rolly probably fell asleep. That's probably what happened. So that's the theory I'm going with right now. So.
Take that!
No. There's only one person who could have done this. Do you intend to share your internal monologue, Counsel? Sorry, my lord, I was just taking a moment to get things straight in my mind. And for that moment of wasted court's time, you will pay the price. Oh. I didn't even get a chance to Okay then, I guess that leaves the other possibility then. Alright, Rolly then, you're up. It's just me or things getting more strict around here. What were you thinking? What you were thinking is right, Miss Naruto. No, apparently it wasn't, because somehow the game read my mind and I was like, nope, you're wrong. Penalty. Alright, fine, we'll go with Mr. Rolly, because maybe he investigated to try and act as an alibi. Fine, didn't have to be him then.
Take that!
Yeah, it was him. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat. It was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense. Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London.
Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
No, he was hiding in his apartment at the time. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it.
Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well...
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusation lack one very important thing. My boot, you claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. To hide something.
That's right. He's right. but my husband and I just happened to be there. That's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair.
Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord.
Constable Beat's motive for tampering at the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? Which side of Briar Road, though? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? Here.
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Garrett's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right, I saw it. With my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print. The victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Ziek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously.
That is why it was only the bouquet
that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, Rolly. It isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know.
I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything explodes. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly. Order. What on earth is the meaning of this?
Oh, Rolly, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one, too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation. For why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman? And yet, Lord Van Zeeks, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England. Japan. It makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? Well, that would be his warrant card.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan. Which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, through honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens, on his beat, in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that a young bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh, yes. It was our very first wedding anniversary.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of him, what must have gone through the man's mind? But sir, just on that one particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat. Is that, or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said. It's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious. Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As you ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Meerschaum Street, and then... I lied to my wife. I'm in so much big duty trouble right now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm finally awake now. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, really? Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction, just across the street, to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon. Oh, of course you did. Otherwise my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly. That was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garadev household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. The 4th book's information was in the victim's hand. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make much a jar of difference. I suppose this is for me now. I've had it. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zieks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? I will steal his life force and make it my own. For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir? You mean to say... Leave now. This trial is not yet over. Sir... Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime.
Objection!
Wait, hold up here. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for a knife in the victim's back. The maid. The maid did it. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zieks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted, the prosecution has no objection to a trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime.
Well, it would have to be her now.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? My assistant made the same request earlier, in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Garridet. Hold on a second. My bitrate's getting kind of bad right now. Hopefully we're getting close to the end of this segment here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep the stream going too much longer here. Me, oh dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Man, my bitrate is like tanked right now. I don't know what the hell's going on. Ugh. Mrs. Garridet, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garridet. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-topped hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the crime, scene of the incident. Yes, as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garridet. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? Ah! I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there, in all that regalia, said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No. I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4. Actually, he did not say that. Yes, he is correct. He just denied the, He didn't want her to be called. He didn't say she couldn't be called. Oh. Make no mistake. You jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madame, let the truth come out. But that's just a common
or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that?
Are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Mrs. Garradeb, I can't understand what you're saying with that awful accent.
Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst.
Well...
Well, Mr. Naruhodo?
If I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror.
Oh.
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zieks.
I'm going to have to testify. I'm going to have to continue this stupid voice. Oh no.
Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garradeb. And mark my words. In this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord.
Are we going to tag team the maid now?
This is such a strange feeling.
For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Okay, we're gonna cross-examine him. Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes, my name is Joanne Garradeb. And I'm a juror and such like.
It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife, or a maid, or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madame?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in that room that day, old thing, was it? I think we'll have to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garradeb. Yes, sir. Former Second Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action, and now living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life. Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Oh, well, yes. I am quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. The Battle of Garadeb.
Well, they're both their names start with J. What does it say, Jim?
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now.
Oh, really? Skirmish, can't recall reason. Alright, the good thing is bitrate seems back normal now, so I can happily continue.
Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open.
Okay, so knocked candle over. Door, put out fire. And open window. Okay.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Picking up stuff to throw.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I noticed that 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid.
So plenty of knives around.
If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'd have a job proving it, I think.
Alright, so it needs proof that it's one of their knives. Now, the proof is going to be in that broken tip. We need to figure out where the actual tip of that knife went.
That is the crux of the matter, I believe. It sounded, though, it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although, an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a martial quarrel here? Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Van Zieks may well be right.
Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, I'm afraid so. So let's get to it. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
With pleasure.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe.
Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb.
A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note discovering her husband's little secret.
And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too.
What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
A likely story.
These waters run very deep. And what transpired next after those multiple blows to the face?
Hold it!
And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, that didn't it? The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although, that little mustache Japanese man borrows water in bottles, I believe.
Did they have bottled water back then? I don't think they did. The defendant, Mr. Natsumi, you mean?
Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off.
Have you actually seen the state of the man?
I believe he uses all of his income to buy books. That's why he's so poor all the time.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire.
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true of a Suzaru takedown, Mr. Naruhodo.
How'd you know I was thinking of that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day?
In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge.
By
A napkin.
Jupiter!
By Jupiter!
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb. Don't shoot. I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall. Ouch. And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every volley. Ah! Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law. I just burned my hand off. Burned my poor tea in my pipe. That's not the way a pipe works.
Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened to him? Your pipe, sir? I had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Not to clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes? And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see. Your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I managed to bandage the thing up for now.
Ah, you are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
I wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important, yeah, might as well. The defense believes Mr. Gyarados' remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one?
In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to integrate yourself with a young lady. Ingratiate, I mean.
Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. The pipe has been entered into the court record. I must look at this right away.
I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruto.
No, you didn't. That was perfectly acceptable, because I wanted to look at that anyway. Is my knife fragment hidden inside? Here it is! Right there! I knew it.
Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think. What could it be?
Let's turn it over and give it a shake.
What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something.
The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. He's been smoking his pipe the entire time with a piece of metal in there and has not noticed that. Like, surely would have fallen out when he tried to dump his burnt tobacco out of it, and so he has not cleaned his pipe since he got attacked. There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look. It appears to have been made relatively recently.
And see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe.
Yes, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye, though, because it's clearly new. It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? For some reason it feels slightly ominous to me. Like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Gyarados' dressing gown.
I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Gyarados, given that he's gone to a trouble of repairing it like this.
Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Yeah, he can't afford to replace it. This is a tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe.
It looks like the tip of a blade or something.
The tip of a blade. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something niggling me, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is.
Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again.
Alright, do we need to, like, re-examine this thing? This is a tip. Small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait. Part of it's missing. I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this?
Ah, that's a tiny fragment of metal we found inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe.
Yes, and just maybe.
Oh my, it's a perfect fit.
Somehow, I just knew it. Okay.
I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down.
Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Suzato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully like we just did. Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garadeb. Now, if we could return to the crux of the matter. What could you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim?
Hold it!
Sorry, would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see. Pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle, you know the sort of thing.
It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too. And then there's my leather work.
Sorry to say, we're always losing knives around the place. And we have dozens of the things.
They sold them at the market sometimes. 20 for the price of 19. Needs to say I snapped them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at mealtimes too, instead of a knife and fork.
Now, Joan, we don't want people thinking of some kind of savage. Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive?
I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim.
Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witnesses. Sir? Well, John, you'll have a job proving it, I think. Well,
Objection!
how about that? Mr. Garadeb, could I ask you to take a look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, he does, dearie me. It's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word.
You mustn't D very dusty. What? I didn't get that. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal. Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. She's standing on a box. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of the entire case?
Take that!
This is a knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, because we have it right here. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garradeb's pipe. Ah! Good grief, Lord Van Zieks, did you have a heart attack? I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene, and this fragment of metal, are a perfect match. Good golly gosh! This deserves a good golly gosh. Order. Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? Sir Van Zieks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is, when did a fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garradeb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Not to clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh. Dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garradeb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garradeb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord. Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garradeb's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet, there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garradeb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh! Oh dear! Oh.
Objection!
I must drink. A full-bodied fairy. I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's uncharacteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. A lawyer theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see... Here, taste my boot. It's spoiled by an unsurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... Nani? Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. Get your boot off the bench, please. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... because she was bent over picking up the book.
That's right, you silly little man.
Now, Joan, you old thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. You're missing the book part. You're missing the book, Van Zieks, come on. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it would have planted itself into the victim's back. It would have stabbed her on top of her head and been fatal. Yeah! Order.
Right, you see? That's exactly right. Listen, if the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on top of her head.
Well, he's lost for words, look.
I knew it. I never liked your theory in the first place.
I don't know, though. What really did happen? Would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder. No, we didn't. We're good. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. No, it's not. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency, which we can prove, we can fix, you know. It's not that hard. Or in other words,
we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and the theory will stand. Miss Usato, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there.
It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
No, it's not.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer.
Goodness.
Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the knife falling became lodged in the victim's back is... the book.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence that the defense will present. The burnt book. Is that not Mr. Garadev's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know now, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that, when he moved the scene exactly as he saw it. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the street, of the road. That's true, however. As part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But What made you place the book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. Sir. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh, dearie me.
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Geradeb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
The book I threw.
Yes, Mrs. Geradeb. And what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up.
Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book.
Oh heavens!
And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was her defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Well, I never. It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above.
Ah!
And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Geradeb?
The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Geradeb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear.
It's all right. I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sure
His back getting burnt, but is burnt too. Lord Van Zeeks. What news of Mrs. Garradeb? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events have left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we never once met her.
How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems.
Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped the wrong conclusion again, in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead.
Yes, Constable Beats said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed, too.
I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him.
Yes, poor man.
So when it happened, well, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion.
I do declare the truth to be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say,
if I'll have a Cork River story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
I completely got their voices wrong. It doesn't matter. Very well, Mr. Soseki Natsume, I hereby pronounce you not guilty. Fireworks inside the Old Bailey. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord Sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh, yes, sir. Of course. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported 2 tears. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course. Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh. At last. I'm free. Joyful, joyous, jubilation. Heady, hearty happiness, hurrah. Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that, then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely, loyal, locum, lawyer. Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you locum lawyer gave me my gloom to boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench, before all of those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful antidote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. Antidote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you again. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Could you two turn up on time? Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No, then my haste was in vain. Ah, it's you! Herlock Sholmes. Oh, Have we met, sir?
This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom. Either your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face. In that light. In the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Hairlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady to run off, are you not? Ah. Had she been taken to hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was all unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but... that was quite priceless. Poor Soseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And, it would seem, you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed. By the spirits, and now by the Reaper! Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed.
It will all be right, Mr. It will be all right, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you.
Why did you attack me?
With a perfectly executed Suzato takedown.
Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Suzato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here, and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
That's very touching, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, and perhaps less veiled terms. You wish to withdraw halfway around the world, to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all. The more I learned of literature, the more of this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots, and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read. And what about Miss Suzato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we?
A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet.
And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted, provided we actually get paid for this case.
Well then, you could take my lodgings.
Oh, the windowless room?
But what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with a floor, a ceiling, and walls. It's quite a bargain.
Great.
And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit.
Oh my, an evil spirit. How exotic.
Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call.
We'll think about it if that's alright.
Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me?
Really?
Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of.
Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to taking lodgings in the great detective's office's attic, I mean. I'm too overcome for words.
So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Dinner's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsumi. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes.
Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsumi. It shan't be long. We're gonna have a party tonight.
Somebody's happy. Locum. I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London.
Likewise, Mr. Natsumi. It's been a privilege meeting you two.
It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day.
Yes, I'm sure.
And hopefully by then I'll be a successful lawyer. Even though I kind of already am a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, Mr. Sholmes.
I have little doubt Mr. Natsumi will be released in time for dinner this evening.
And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established,
we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home. 221B Baker Street. We lived in Herlock Sholmes' attic. So this is an attic.
Is to be our new office, yes.
Our office? Are we partners in law?
I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it?
I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it.
Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsumi arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. You're gonna have to put up with that every now and then. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London. The real London. It was dark underbelly. And curses and ghosts and haunts and vampires. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. The stinky, smelly, smoggy murk, or whatever. And landed in London, we got an achievement. Yes, save my progress. The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. Okay. Alright. That is it for tonight. A little bit over 3 hours, 3 hours and 12 minutes here. Alright, case 4 is done. So that means we have case 5, and that's will be it for at least the first half of this game. And then I can finally take a break from it for a bit. Alright, so anyway, yeah, still having fun with this game. Just need to stay consistent with playing it. Like, as long as I remember to play it on stream every now and then, I can keep making progress there. So, pretty good case. I think I enjoyed that case pretty well. It was a good mix of investigation and the court stuff. Like I said before, I enjoy the court stuff more than the investigation stuff right now. So, but it was some pretty good court stuff. I kind of admit that my logic didn't quite work out at the end there. It was like, oh, I thought like the maid had reason to like move the body and Rolly had fallen asleep, maybe. But no, Rolly was my second choice in that because it made sense. It made sense, so anyway, yeah. That was really the only real mistake I kind of made in the thing, so anyway, thanks for watching. I will continue this, I will start case 5 this week, I think. Either tomorrow or Friday, we'll see. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I'm gonna go do something else for a while. Take care, and bye-bye.